Hello Richard, and welcome along today. Now, as one of the leading players in the waste industry, FCC Environment has undergone quite a transition over the past year. Can you tell me more about this shift of emphasis for your business strategy?
It has been a change. For us, it's quite a logical step, I think, to react to market changes and the way that waste management as a business and as a business sector has had to change in the last 5 to 10 years. We traditionally, as you know, been a landfill business, and that's usually bag it and bin it, forget it kind of service. We've got to move away from that and have moved away from that, and bringing together all of the component parts of the UK businesses under the brand name of FCC Environment seemed to us to be the right thing to do.
Okay, now this corporate repositioning for FCC comes at a time when the waste industry itself is in a lot of flux. As waste becomes more valuable for businesses and indeed society, how can service providers like yourselves best capitalise upon this, do you think?
It's a real opportunity for us. Our business has had to change, as I mentioned, and it's changing because people's perception, businesses' perception of waste is changing. The value of waste is clear to be seen. Recyclable materials now have value, no longer a cost to businesses. And we see our part to play in that as being the ability to advise businesses, to work with businesses, to give them the best value from that material that we possibly can, through doing things differently than bagging and burying it. And that sort of approach is no longer valid. The market, as we know, has provided opportunity in recovery of materials and also recycling materials to an extent now whereby we've had to change, and businesses are recognising that and seeing the opportunity that exists, and we're working with them.
This move, I guess, from traditional disposal to smarter recovery requires not only a change in mindset, but also more strategic collaboration across the entire value chain. What role do you think FCC can play here in terms of addressing some of these challenges?
Well, there's lots we can do. There are no limits to some extent to how far we can help businesses deliver a valuable service in terms of waste management. We currently undertake lots of audits for businesses to advise them on the best method of recovering their material, collecting their material from them, and disposing it in the most appropriate way which generates the most value back to them. Rather than just put it in a bin and forget it, businesses are now looking to recover some value from that material, such that it's no longer a cost to a business. It's actually more of adds value to their business, whether that be in terms of their corporate social responsibility, in terms of doing the right thing for the environment, or whether it's to do with reducing their cost base. And we have that ability, if you like, with the range of services we provide, from landfill right the way through to energy, creating energy from waste facilities, which we have several. It's something which businesses are very much engaging with us in, and we're very much happy to engage with businesses and have that conversation.
What you've been saying really kind of reflects some of the research that we've uncovered within our own white paper, which shows that around, I think, 72% of businesses that we surveyed said they are now looking to engage with the waste industry to extract more value and actually to close that loop.
Yes.
Is that something you are definitely seeing now at ground level with your own client base?
Oh yes, definitely. Only last year, I think the UK PLC recycled more material than it landfilled for the first time. And that is a remarkable change from 10 years ago. And actually, I think the best figures I can find suggested that sort of 20% of material at best was being recycled. So that change, if you like, is presented a huge opportunity. Rather than just being a service provider, FCC Environment can provide services with a bottom line value now, not just taking something away and burying it. and which adds a huge amount of value to their businesses in many different ways. The business, for example, that we've business service that we work with, DS Smith in Nottingham, has done just that. You know, they had a problem. We had part of the solution. We came together and brought out or developed a solution, if you like, which benefited both us and them to an extent that wouldn't otherwise have worked. And that was using our combined strengths, if you like, because the value of the material generated the opportunity to do so.
This joint working that you've got going with DS Smith, I guess you might even call it pre-competitive collaboration. Do you see that kind of arrangement going forward for the waste industry? Do you see that kind of being scaled up at all?
Oh, most definitely. You know, that's exactly the sort of relationship we want to have with our businesses and do have. And it's early days, of course. The market is changing, and we're at the bottom of that hill rather than the top. We'll generate partnerships and collaboration earlier in the waste management chain than perhaps we've ordinarily done, whereby we see the management of that waste right through a whole range of different service areas in the waste management business, right through to ultimately, minimising their waste, recovering or reusing as much of that waste as we possibly can. Where we can't, we'll recycle it and we'll generate the value and return that value back into that partnership, which generates value to both partners, including ourselves. And where we can't do anything with what's left, then we'll use our own assets, landfill, and dispose of as little as we can back into landfill. And
it does raise some interesting issues, doesn't it, around feedstock security, for instance. Our own research revealed, I think, that now around a third of waste management companies say that feedstock security concerns are actually impacting on their business. That said, the UK is still quite heavily reliant on landfill. So how can the waste industry best unlock resource extraction going forward, do you think?
So I think it's going to change quite significantly over the next decade. But it's going to be driven a lot by market forces. I think businesses are looking at the opportunity of recovering value out of the material that they are producing, the waste they produce, in order to generate, possibly an income from that now. Local authorities are no exception to that. And that they now see that the material that they've traditionally been handling and burying in the ground through landfill now has a real value. So paper, plastics and cards and metals now have some serious value attached to them, and that will drive the thinking. FCC are using that market change to invest in new facilities, to place us in the sector, to be able to offer a much broader range of opportunities for businesses.
And looking at the circular economy, I know there's still a lot of uncertainty right now about how this is going to play out in terms of scale, but also waste flows. Who are you looking to for clarity at the moment on some of these issues?
I think we'd like to see a stable marketplace. I'm not sure who's going to provide that, because market forces are market forces, aren't they? Yeah. It's difficult for us to see through that at the moment because it's quite a fluctuating marketplace, and a lot of businesses are struggling with that, which generates a little bit of uncertainty around future investments and getting return from those investments, if you like. So we'd certainly like a stable marketplace in terms of producing those commodities in paper, plastic, glass, cardboard, and metals and such like. I think the regulatory industry has a role to play here as well, in terms of ensuring that there is a consistent approach to the specification of those materials, so that everyone's working on the same level playing field, if you like. So that we know that we are going to invest in a facility which is going to generate a particular type of material. We want to be sure that that material is valid for and sustainable for the next few years, such that we have the confidence, if you like, to invest in those facilities. What
about government? Surely government has a role to play here in terms of legislation and policy. What levers could they introduce, do you think?
It's a good question. government definitely has a role to play here. They've been very significant in changing the waste management sector in the last decade in any case. What I think we'd like to see is government providing for a future for waste management in a way which places all management of materials on a level playing field. And by that I mean providing clear legislation around how you categorise certain materials, such that we understand clearly as a sector how they transition from being a waste to becoming a raw material in their own right, or a commodity which can be sold. And I'd like that to be classified in a way which presents the opportunity for us as a business to have some certainty around investing in the future, so that we can place ourselves very much in that circular economy, rather than it being just a linear, we hand it over. We'd like to be able to see where the added value ends, where it begins rather, and where it ends.
Ultimately, how do you see the circular economy boosting your bottom line?
Very straightforward for us. It presents a huge opportunity for us to move away from a traditional landfill business, whereby we can be far more sophisticated as a waste sector and as a waste business. And through that sophistication, it generates, I think, a huge opportunity for us to develop new ways of working with materials, generating materials, and offering that service to our businesses, and through those partnerships we talked about earlier, to generate some value back to our customers, other than just basically a cost-based service. It's now a value-added based service.
And there is a lot of change right now, and if I were to say to you 20 years from now, there will be a very different waste industry operating to the one today. What do you think that might look like? Over
the next 20 years, I think the market will stabilise somewhat, because we'll be more consistent with the specification of material. The general industry in the UK and the municipal markets in the UK will better understand the risks associated with the management of those commodities, those raw materials, if you like, and understand the risks and rewards better, such that it's a much more balanced equation. At the moment, I think that some of our business, some of the UK business and local authorities see it as an opportunity just to passport the risk over to the waste management sector. And I think that's got to change somewhat over the next 20 years. I would hope sooner than that, actually, such that it's much more balanced relationship, a much more balanced partnership, where there is risk and reward, and there's pain and gain, if you like, on both sides. It's not just something which, again, is the old principle of bag it and forget it. I'd like to see a much more collaborative approach, and FCC are very much in that train of thought, and working with customers who also are in that train of thought as well.
Great. Well, I mean, that sounds really positive, Richard,
yes.
And it's been a very insightful time talking to you, so thanks for your time today.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you.